The flight from Atlanta was 15 hours of recycled air and the suffocating weight of what ifs. For Elena, every mile was a bridge burning behind her. She had spent 20 years in a climate-controlled office, but as the cabin door opened at Murtala Mohammed International, the heat of Lagos hit her like a physical embrace. It was thick, spicy, and unapologetic. Elena stood at the arrival's gate, looking for a man she had only ever seen in pixels. And then, there he was. Tunde. He was broader than the screen allowed, his presence commanding the room in a crisp white agbada. The first hello wasn't a movie moment, it was a collision of nerves. Tunde reached out, his hand trembling slightly as he offered a stiff, formal handshake that Elena met with a confused, fumbling grip. Desperate not to be too forward or offend her, Tunde pulled her into a rigid, grandmother-type hug, the kind of embrace that was more polite than passionate. He wanted to kiss her, the urge was a roar in his chest. But the fear of being too much held him back. Instead, he gave her 2 quick, brotherly pats on the back. As Tunde took her hand again, the roar of 20 million dreams seemed to fade into a heartbeat. "You're actually here," he whispered, his voice thick with relief. Elena blinked, still feeling the ghost of those polite backpats. Okay, she said, a small, awkward smile tugging at her lips. The perfectly managed life doesn't surrender without a fight, and right now, the suburbs felt a world away from this beautiful, clumsy reality. The drive to Tunde's home had become a chaotic blur. Elena watched, white-knuckled, as Tunde navigated a labyrinth of yellow buses and vendors who moved like shadows between cars. "Is that a man on a motorcycle carrying a refrigerator?" she gasped. Tunde's grin was steady. "In Lagos, Elena, we don't wait for permission to move. We just move." They hadn't even reached the house when Tunde's phone began to scream. A logistics crisis at the warehouse. "I cannot leave you at the house alone," Tunde said, his voice tight. "You must come with me." Suddenly, Elena was thrust into the heart of the Lagos night. The warehouse was a frantic hive of humming generators and shouting men. Tunde stood like a general, his business teetering on the edge of a breakdown. But as she watched the workers struggle to position a heavy crate of equipment, her doctor brain took over. "Stop," she shouted, her voice cutting through the roar like a scalpel. The warehouse went silent. She pointed with surgical precision at a failing hoist. "The tension is wrong," she said, steady and commanding. "If you lift that now, the cable snaps. And someone doesn't go home tonight." Tunde looked at the machine, then back at her. In that moment, the soft American vanished. He saw a partner. The crisis was averted, but the real test was waiting at home. Tunde's sister, Funmi, was standing at the gate, a pot of jollof rice in her hands and a gaze that could strip paint. She didn't look at her brother. She looked at Elena's wrinkled Atlanta suit and her steady, unblinking eyes. Funmi's voice was a low vibration. "I've heard the doctor has already started giving orders." Funmi was speaking of the incident at the warehouse, her eyes narrow with suspicion. As they walked into the kitchen, Funmi placed the pot on the table like a heavy challenge. "My brother says you have a healing touch. But Lagos is not a patient to be cured, Elena. It is a fire to be survived. Tell me, are you here to be his queen, or just another voice adding to his chaos?" The ocean was easy. The warehouse was a warning. But the dinner table? That's where the real blood is drawn. Tunde is torn, caught between the woman who just saved his business and the sister who has guarded his heart since his wife passed. You've seen Elena fly thousands of miles out of her comfort zone, only to realize that loving Tunde means honoring the deep-rooted bonds that hold his world together. Funmi isn't just a sister, she is the resolute protector of her brother's peace, the woman who has guarded his heart since the day his wife passed away. Between the grief they've shared and the cultural traditions Elena is still learning, there is a heavy history at this table. It's the weight of a family that has survived loss by leaning on one another. And now, Elena must find her place within that strength. Drop a comment below. How do you handle the weight of a partner's past? When a gatekeeper sister is protecting a brother who has already lost so much, is it Elena's job to prove herself, or Tunde's job to bridge the gap? Subscribe and hit the bell for episode 3, The Family Dinner. It's time to see if love can survive when the full weight of a family truth is finally revealed.